Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. Federal government targets capital markets to fund infrastructure is what we're discussing right now. The federal government, in collaboration with the International Finance Corporation, IFC, a subsidiary of the World Bank, is exploring the use of public-private partnerships, PPP, and the capital market to fund infrastructure projects. Key sectors targeted includes roads, railways, ports, IT, health, education, transport, and agriculture. With the high cost of bridging Nigeria's infrastructure deficit, the government is looking beyond budgetary allocations to alternative financing sources such as bonds, private investments, and long-term loans. The Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission, ICRC, is working with the IFC to unlock Nigeria's capital market for infrastructure financing. ICRC's Director General Dr. Jobson Oseodion Ewalefo emphasized that alternative financing options are crucial for the country's development. He highlighted that while investors see Nigerian projects as viable, concerns over investment risks and limited information remain barriers. To address this, he called on the World Bank to support capacity development and funding for government agencies. As part of these efforts, the World Bank plans to introduce its Joint Capital Markets Program, JCAP, in Nigeria to enhance financial products and attract investments into infrastructure. Ms. Patricia Kanziani, a World Bank official, praised the ICRC's role in regulating PPPs and stressed the need for collaboration among stakeholders to build investor confidence. The World Bank and IFC delegation is holding meetings with key government and private sector players to advance Nigeria's capital market development agenda. Joining us this morning to discuss this is Segun Sopitan, as a principal partner, Woodridge and Scott Consulting. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. So, seeing this story, I'd like to know your first reaction, because this is a cycle that we always come into, whereby we need funding, we need obviously to develop our nation. Infrastructure is something that is important, but then we most times get loans. In this case, we're just looking for other investors. So what is your initial reaction to this?
No, I mean, I think this is what I particularly have been calling for quite a while now. I've always maintained that first of all, the government is not generating enough revenues to drive the types of massive investments in infrastructure projects that we need to grow as a country. We simply don't have enough money. And secondly, that we must avoid at all costs borrowing to fund those infrastructure projects because of what that will do with the long-term sustainability of our fiscal position as a country. So I've always said that we have to think outside of the box. We've got to look for alternative funding models, and they're there. All we need to do is think creatively. So my initial reaction and immediate reaction to this was very positive. This is great. It's great news. I hope it's more than soundbite. Forgive me if I'm a bit skeptical. I hope it's more than soundbite, and I hope something tangible will come out of this. But if it does, and if this is pursued with enough vigor, with enough determination, and it sees the light of day, then I'm all full of praises for this as a start. This has to be a start. There's so much more to be done, but it's a very, very good start.
Okay, as we're talking about external funding for this kind of things, I'm just wondering, how will Trumpism affect it?
I don't think that, as far as, by that I assume you mean the impact of the new president of the United States, Trump, on global, the global financial flows and funding, global collaboration, cooperation, and all of that. And I would say that this is still one sphere where his influence has not reached and will probably not reach, at least not in direct terms. Maybe indirectly, maybe there are enough dislocations in global trade. Maybe if that then results in triggers inflation, for example, global inflation, maybe that might then begin to cause investors to take a second look at what their investment options are, what territories they could go to. But for now, I don't think that I can see any direct impact of his actions on this in this sphere of influence. If anything, I think it might very well be positive because, at the end of the day, if Trump scatters everywhere, to put it in street parlance, if he scatters everywhere for the developed world, embroils everybody in trade, tariff wars and trade wars and all of that, the likely winners will be emerging markets and emerging economies where there might be flight of capital to those places just in search of better returns and maybe even safety. but that we're still a bit some way off that at the moment. The events that are unfolding in the United States, everybody's still trying to understand them. Everybody's still trying to figure out what is truth and what is fiction, and how a part of it that is truth will affect the rest of the world. So for now, I wouldn't bother myself with that. I'll focus my energy and attention on what our government is doing and what it can do to make what it's doing better and to ensure that we achieve the results that we also desperately desire.
Okay, so what are some, if we look at our own infrastructural deficits right now, what are some specific challenges that we face as a nation, and how is obviously getting funding from the capital market going to address this compared to getting loans?
Okay, so great question, and I think that this is, I hope that this question has been asked in those rooms where the ICRC is having its meetings with the IFC and other stakeholder groups and other partners, because this is the question that must start the process. What are the challenges that we face in terms of infrastructure? Which ones are the biggest ones? Can we prioritize them? Which one do we need to tackle now? How much money do we need to tackle that one? And then which one next? What are the timelines? Which one will cascade into which one that will result in types of multiplier effects that we need to see to generate the development that we need? And for me, if I was asked that question in that room, first thing I would tell them is electricity. It's the elephant in the room. It's a big albatross. It's just a travesty and a disgrace that 25 years into our democracy, I'm being very charitable by not looking beyond that, that since 1999, we have not crossed 5,500 megawatts of electricity distribution in this country. It is completely unthinkable. It's completely unbelievable. It's unimaginable. I mean, if you look at where other countries, that we might even consider our peers, even in the African continent, the people that we compare ourselves with, the people that we're contending with the position of the largest economy in Africa, Egypt, South Africa, and a few others. If you look at the journey that they've traveled in this time, and you will cover your head in shame. Egypt is doing 60,000 megawatts, same as South Africa. Egypt has a population of about 130 million people. South Africa has about 60 million. So if you look at the energy per capita that these countries have compared to what we have in Nigeria, you will be ashamed for your country. So that has to be our first immediate focus and priority. There is no development in any other sector that can happen with the level, with the speed, the pace, and at the capacity that we require given our population and our size, that will happen without electricity being sorted out, right? So it's good. You need to bring private sector funding into that sector, but there are things that private sector cannot invest in because they are national assets. The transmission part of it, private funding cannot deal with that, right? So we need to focus on that. We need to maybe even unbundle the transmission question a bit further, and then look at how we can create regional grids that you can then connect if there's even any need to connect and all of that. So power, electricity, you must deal with that. And if government is coming forward to then raise capital market instruments to generate the funding that we need to tackle this problem head on with very short-term milestones, goals, and objectives. Say, for instance, whatever timelines that you have must not exceed 2 years, because things can happen in 2 years. These things are not difficult, right? So electricity is one. Of course, then you have to deal with rail. Immediately after electricity, my priority would be rail. So you can take the pressure of the very terrible road networks anyway, and move goods and services far cheaper, far faster, more reliably, and more safe, more safely. So if you take electricity, take rail, we can start talking about all the others. Health, there are problems everywhere. But I will take those two things as urgent national priority projects that must be addressed, tackled, and solved within a very, very short timeline. We don't need 8 years, we don't need 10 years. These things can be done 2, 3, maximum 4 years, right? So for me, that would be where I would be advising them to focus their energy.
Unfortunately, in the report, the key sectors targeted, I'm quoting it directly, key sectors targeted include roads, railway, ports, IT, health, education, transport, and agriculture. The power you were talking about is not part of it. And as far as I'm concerned, maybe there are just 4 here, because when you talk transportation, you're looking at railways, you're looking at roads, you're looking at the ports, you're looking, and they're just listing all of them as separate things. Maybe just because we like separating a lot of things, like we've separated Ministry of Agriculture from livestock and all that. But this is the reality on ground. You are talking about power, and everybody, or almost everybody, is in agreement with that power is very important for our economy to grow, but it's not part of the key sectors mentioned here. I don't know if it's a misplaced priority, or you think they know what they're doing.
Oh, no, I think, excuse me. I think that, pardon me. I'm sorry. Sorry, give me 1 second, please.
Sorry about that.
Sorry.
All right, let me manage. While I get water. I'm not sure that, I think there is a bit of a lack of deep thinking into what has been pushed out. I think that there is a lack of rigor. I like using the term intellectual rigor, because I find that it's missing in our national conversation too often, whether in government circles or even amongst the citizenry. Critical reasoning, logic just get sacrificed and get thrown away, on the altar of all sorts of other things. So for me, I think that maybe this is an omission on the part of the people that put out this statement. But trust me, there is no way that these conversations are going to happen, that electricity will not eventually find its way there, because it's a self-evident problem. You can't, look, if you want to talk about rail, the rail system, for example, are we going to be building locomotives in 2025? Are we going to be building diesel-powered rail networks? We have to go to electricity or higher technology. We've got to take advantage of the leapfrog effect, where technology has advanced beyond what you currently have. You don't have to follow the trajectory and the pathway that the people that have developed those technologies followed. You can simply jump, all of those steps and meet them exactly where they are by doing some sort of technology transfer, leveraging and learning from the experiences. So if we're doing rail and we're going electric, how do you want to do that without electricity? How do you want to, what do you want to do in the healthcare sector? So the healthcare sector is one of the things that were listed. What do you want to do there? You want to build hospitals? You want to build a network of care centers? You want to build infrastructure, emergency response infrastructure, all of that? How do you do all of that without electricity? How can you provide healthcare without electricity? How do you provide education without electricity? Right? So I think it's an omission on the part of whoever put out this statement, or an omission in the thinking behind it, but that will self-correct, because electricity, is like water. You can't do anything without it. When the information age, nothing happens without power. energy of some sort. So
I hope you're not the only one thinking about this, because we just had a report of a government spending 54 million for marriage to sponsor marriages and all that. That's the reasoning of some of these people in government. I just hope that, as you have said, it is really an omission on the part of the people who put out this statement. Otherwise, it is also possible that it was never mentioned. So it's
possible.
It's the reality in our country.
But like I said, it will self-correct.
And I'm sure everybody shares that same sentiment, because power is something that we definitely need. If you're going to have hospitals, they are going to be operated by machines. Even in the education system, everybody is moving towards
We're
technology.
even talking about electric cars. We're talking about
so we definitely need
that.
electricity, and I think that should be the key focus right now. But something that I'm going to ask, which is a major concern, and I'm sure everybody can agree to this, is investor confidence. So when the president assumed power, of course, he was moving about everywhere looking for investors to come into Nigeria. And one thing that we are seeing with this is having the public and private partnership. So what is that confidence that investors are going to say, yes, I can come into Nigeria and invest, knowing that, you know, the business environment is okay, and then whatever money that I'm putting is not going to be so much of a high risk. How can we ensure that we put our house in order to get these investors to come in, especially if we're saying that we want to fund our infrastructure in Nigeria?
Look, Rume, this is, again, a fantastic question, because this also lies at the crux of the heart of the matter.
Yeah.
You can go and do all your roadshows, investor roadshows, you know, in New York, in the UK, in the EU. At the end of the day, what is going to determine where the monies go is your local business environment and the investment-friendly climate that you have, or otherwise. So when you talk about investor confidence and how that will affect, you know, the success of something like this, I think it's it's an issue that the president has to address, has to give rigorous attention to, and appoint somebody that will fix that. You know, so if you want to call it ease of doing business, like the Buhari administration did and recorded some very mild, modest successes in that area, call it whatever you want to call it, but you've got to fix that. And to do that, one of the things that you need is the policy framework that engenders that confidence. You need a central bank of Nigeria that is ensuring that capital flows can happen freely. Look, you can set up all the PPPs that you want. You can, banter about capital markets, funding infrastructure projects. If people cannot bring monies in freely and take them out freely, we're wasting our time. It just simply won't happen. You will see trickles. There will be people who the returns proposition for return on investment will be too attractive for them to leave. But the majority who are more interested in efficiency over returns, who are satisfied with doubling whatever they're doing with the money, wherever that money is. So if your money is in the United States and you're getting returns of 5%, they are very happy to come into Nigeria and get 10%. They're not after your 30% that your capital market is doing, because that 30% you would lose it to a lot of factors like inflation, the inefficiency of the funds flows, and all of that. So for those types of people, and those people are the ones that have the large volumes of capital, they won't touch you with a long spoon until they know their monies can go in and come out freely, without government interference, without a fear of policy flip-flops that can jeopardize their capital. So we need to deal with that so that we can, earn the confidence of the people that have these monies. Otherwise, we put up all these structures and it just simply won't work. And I must also say that, the capital market, looking at the capital market for funding, we must not forget Nigerians in diaspora. I've got family out there, and my brother is doing very well, where he is in the United States. And he always says that there is money, there is hundreds of billions of US dollars in the hands of Nigerians. And they want to bring it home, not for people to buy phones, not for people to pay for their rent. They want to bring those monies home to help develop the country. But the framework, the infrastructure, the policy environment, the confidence that you speak about is not there. So the government has to deal with this so that this new venture by the ICRC will succeed.
Okay, so it's good that we're talking about investor confidence, and you're talking about having someone to put in the works like the previous administration did and all that. But now it seems as if our president is the one that is doing the job, moving from place to place and trying to get people to come and invest in the country. And they're saying that there are some gains. I don't know, because we are not seeing those gains and all that. But when we talk about building confidence or the investors having confidence in our country, there need to be low-hanging fruits that we need to say, okay, let's start with this one right now before we can move on to the other ones. Apart from the fact that we are in a country where security is a problem anyway, but what are those, in the previous administration they called it the ease of doing business, but what are the things that needed to be put in place or that need right now to be put in place before any other thing that will build the confidence that the people need to have in our economy?
The central bank. I don't need to think too far, and I don't need to think too deeply before I respond.
You've already mentioned the central bank. I'm sure it goes beyond
that. No, it's not. Look, one of the biggest problems that we have in this country today is the ease of capital flow. We don't seem to understand this as a country. It seems as far as central bank doesn't get it. The reason our currency is struggling is not necessarily because we are not a productive economy. It's not because we're not exporting enough. Exports are not the only source of foreign exchange revenues for countries. There are so many other things that we're doing. The problem we have is that monies cannot flow in and out. So exports can bring monies in. But just investments in your different sectors by foreign capital providers will bring you the badly needed liquidity in your foreign exchange markets that will help your currency gain value. But the Central Bank of Nigeria has, this memorandum, foreign exchange memorandum. I think they call it Memorandum 17. I will do the research and get the exact name, and I'll put it out there. We need to revise that document and take out the archaic provisions and requirements for, documents that really don't do anything for you. The world has moved on. We are in a technology age, information age, where you can get information without getting people to fill physical forms. Right? We need to advance beyond the kind of things that the CBN is asking for, that is restricting access to the official market and constraining the ability of our currency to do well. So for me, if you want to talk about what needs to be done at the low-hanging fruit, the CBN is just a policy review. They recently came out with the foreign exchange code. Beautiful document, wonderful, necessary initiative. But I think what they need to do more than anything else now is to deal with the exchange controls and relax them. If you do that, Nyamgul, what you will see is that capital will flow in and flow out freely. We need to stop being afraid of our shadows. We need to stop being afraid of capital flights. If you fix your environment and you make the environment safe for capital will not fly anywhere. So fix your environment and relax these exchange controls, and then we'll see some progress. Look, a lot of work has been done with regards to the Corporate Affairs Commission, ability to register new entities, and all of that. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done with land, what's it called? The land ownership rights legislative framework, where land resides in the hands of the state government, and it takes forever for you to get a COO, which then constrains ability of people to bring monies in. What project do you want to do that you won't need land of, in most cases? So we need to look at that as well. So there are a lot of other little things that we can try to fix, but somebody has to sit in a room and look at all of those things, bring them together in one framework, and develop a plan to tackle them.
So for you, if we're looking at sustainability, because of course, these are things that we need to look at now to ensure that, okay, anybody can come as a player and it's something that they can, get a hang of. But if we're looking at sustainability in the long run, in the long run, and how we need to develop our infrastructure in Nigeria, what are some ways, 2, 3 that you think we should definitely start to look into?
I think sustainability, you'd have to start talking about governance issues. And for sustainability, you have to deal with governance issues. You've got to look at the legislative environment, the lawmaking process. If I want to bring my capital into the country and I find that maybe some of the laws are inimical to my interest or the interest of my stakeholders, how easy would it be for me to lobby the National Assembly and get them to tweak one part or the other of some law that has existed since 1950? We've got to deal with that. That would help with the issue of sustainability, because then people can come in with confidence. So I'm saying make it easy for people to address policy and legislative issues. That would deal with the issue of sustainability. Make sure the rule of law is dealt with. This is absolutely critical. One of the major reasons that monies will not come into Nigeria is because trade disputes are inevitable. It's an inevitable part of doing business. You will have disagreements with the people you are doing business with. The knowledge that I can quickly and easily seek redress and get it is a major determining factor for most capital providers, for most investment analysts. So we need to look at our entire judicial system, the justice system, judiciary, and try to ensure that people, justice is dispensed quickly. This same thing that the wheels of justice grind very slowly, we've got to get rid of that. It's not true anymore. We're in the 21st century. People don't need to appear in court physically anymore. All over the world, people are doing virtual court sessions, and you are getting judgments in days, within days of applications being filed. We need to deal with that as well. If we fix the legislative environment, policy environment, the rule of law within our country, then I think in terms of sustainability, you would achieve quite a bit. Because then you can continuously and consistently succeed in attracting investment.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I hope that they're listening, and I hope that, it's very important. I hope they're listening and they're picking nuggets on how we can ensure that our nation is developed, because I'm sure that's what every Nigerian wants. And like you said, there are people in the diaspora that have lots of money, they're trying to bring it in, but then they don't have the wherewithal, maybe, or the opportunities to be able to bring that money in. So if we're looking at ways to develop, we need to start to engage with these people. Segun, I want to say thank you for coming. It's always a pleasure having you. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me, Rume. Thanks,
Have a wonderful day.
Have a wonderful day.
Have a wonderful day,
Yes,
too.
sir. Over, I've been speaking with Segun Sopitan, is the principal partner, Woodridge and Scott Consulting, and we've just been discussing the fact that the federal government targets capital markets to fund infrastructure in Nigeria. We'll go on a short break now. When we return, we'll be discussing the fact that the Supreme Court has dismissed Fubara's appeal challenging a Maiwole-led assembly. Please stay with us.